And good morning, Bix Weir. RoadRoo.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee. Today I want to talk about one of the world's largest criminal operations, JP Morgan Chase with their CEO, Jamie Dimon. A lot of people in silver and gold manipulation have been screaming about it for 20 years. Ted Butler has been sending Jamie Dimon and the CFTC and anybody who will listen all the documented evidence of silver manipulation, and yet they seem to be allowed to continue forward as if nothing happened. Now we have 8 JP Morgan silver and gold traders either under indictment for RICO charges or under investigation that have been announced, which is about half of them. And yet, Jamie Dimon still sits pretty atop this multi-trillion-dollar criminal operation called JP Morgan Chase. I'm not just throwing that out there to stir some feelings of, oh my God, we're being wronged. This is true. This is a fact. And I'll show you. Here's Forbes. Jamie Dimon is now worth $1.7 billion. Who says capitalism doesn't work? There's a difference between capitalism and crony capitalism and criminal capitalism and our regulators that are complicit and many times involved with the criminality. Case in point, Bernie Madoff and the SEC. The SEC, the guy at the SEC who was in charge of policing Bernie Madoff, was an absolute criminal, and I think one of his investigators married the daughter of Bernie Madoff, something to that effect. I don't quite remember that, but I do remember who the banker was of Bernie Madoff, the $65 billion Ponzi scheme. Destroyed normal humans, mainly Jewish. I think 99% of the Bernie Madoff funds customers were Jewish. It was a big way for the Jews to get paid back for the criminality that was going on in all markets. They were helping. The Mossad was involved. All kinds of people were involved. But let's just stick to the facts. The facts are that Bernie Madoff only had one banker. And that one banker was JP Morgan Chase, led by Jamie Dimon. He knew 100% of what was going on. Jamie Dimon is like the only CEO of the big criminal banks who isn't Jewish. And this is not an attack on Judaism, the religion. This is an attack on criminals within our financial system. Jamie Dimon was about to convert to Judaism, but he decided not. His wife is Jewish, his whole family is Jewish, but he is not. He's Greek Orthodox. He decided not to because he didn't think he could be elected president if he was Jew. That is a fact of what happened. Go back to Jamie Dimon's old interviews, and they talk openly about religion. Judaism is a religion. But why he wasn't converting when his wife and his kids, all his friends, all his banker buddies, and he said it was because he wanted to be president. Wouldn't that be scary? But back to the fact that Jamie Dimon was the only banker at JP Morgan for Bernie Madoff, $65 billion. It was more than a Ponzi scheme, obviously. It was much more than $65 billion. It was part of the deep state. I don't even know what you call it. But what the news media says is $65 billion. Now, crypto companies are required to know their customer. But apparently Jamie Dimon was not required to do that. And like all great bankster frauds, bankster criminality, they tack on a little extra percentage of rate when they're analyzing the deal to say, oh, if there's some legal problems, we might have to pay. So we're going to bake that into the deal. Nobody gets arrested. Nobody gets tried for a crime. They just pay a fine. And that's what happened with Bernie Madoff and JP Morgan. JP Morgan on January 7th, 2014. JP Morgan pays $2.6 billion over Madoff scheme lapses. They call them lapses. JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon were 100% involved and required for that Ponzi scheme. It wasn't a Ponzi scheme. It was a payoff scheme from the Mossad and the deep state. JP Morgan Chase will pay $2.6 billion to resolve criminal and civil allegations. To resolve. So they paid $2.6 billion, probably made trillions when the numbers really come out. But 2.6 billion got them a get out of jail free card. Why is it that these criminals, I mean, literally, what did Martha Stewart get nailed for? Trading a stock and spent time in jail. And JP Morgan gets away with everything. And Jamie Dimon is 100% knowledgeable about what's going on. I found a great site. This is called Violation Tracker Parent Company Summary. It tracks all the penalties that these criminal banksters are supposed to pay to get out of jail. And it was shocking. Right now, JP Morgan, this isn't even all of it. There's a lot more that doesn't. These are just official penalties they pay. It's not the under the cover type of stuff and settlements and people who drop the case because JP Morgan's lawyer just screw them forever. Or they have corrupt judges in their pocket like the Silver trials. But look at this. This is astounding. In the last 9 years, JP Morgan, for penalties for illegal actions, have paid $34.5 billion in just penalties and fines to get out of criminal action, and no one's gone to jail. It is insane. You walk across the street from the JP Morgan headquarters and you walk into a 7-Eleven and you say, all right, give me all your money. Give me $100. You're going to end up in jail. But right across the street, you wear a suit. Your name is Jamie Dimon. You get busted dozens of times for huge, huge, huge illegal schemes. And what happens? Nothing. Look at the number of records. Top 10, these are just the top 10 primary offense types. Toxic security abuses. $13.45 billion, 5 times in the last 10 years. Reggie Middleton got destroyed for something he wasn't even close to what Jamie Dimon has done, and they destroyed him. But if you're Jamie Dimon and you wear a suit and you give enough to the Democratic and Republican parties, you're fine. Mortgage abuse is $5.3 billion. How many people did that affect? Investor protection violations, $4.5 billion, 19 of them. Banking violations, $4 billion, 13 banking violations. They should have 0. These are not oversights. This is a criminal activity. Anti-money laundering deficiencies, $2 billion, only 2, really. Can you say Danske Bank? Hundreds of trillions of dollars. Jamie Dimon said it himself. $5 trillion a day goes out of their Florida money center. $5 trillion every single day. It's all fraudulent money. It's all criminality. They're the largest derivative holder in the world by far. Anti-money laundering deficiencies, $2 billion. Consumer protection violations. This is the stuff that Elizabeth Warren goes after. She only got $891 million. Where does all this money go? You ever ask that? Yeah, they're going to fine JP Morgan for silver manipulation. You're a silver investor. Have you seen a check from JP Morgan lately? A lot of it goes, and it's all tax deductible when they have to pay this stuff. And if they even pay it, a lot of times they don't even pay it. You don't even know it. False Claims Act related, $614 million. Foreign exchange market manipulation, $500 million. It should be $500 billion or $500 trillion. Remember, $5 trillion a day goes out of their Florida office. Securities insurance or trading violation, 9 instances. Now, if you're a CEO and you have this huge record of criminal activity, dozens of they're not convictions, they're payoffs. And you cost your company $34.5 billion, why aren't you fired? Because the board of directors is in on it. And they're all in on the scam. There's 135 records. Right here. 135 records of JP Morgan Chase under the tutelage of Jamie Dimon committing illegal activity, totaling $34.5 billion. How is this capitalism? In a capitalist system, you have one of these violations, you are thrown out on your ear and your company's shut down. True capitalism doesn't skirt the rule of law. The rule of law is the rule of law. And if you're going to cheat and you're going to steal, you're kicked out for good. But that's not the world we live in, and that's the problem. Here's an article from the Washington Post. The financial system is supposed to serve the economy, not harm it. Everything has been financialized. Everything is now about money, about how much these bankers are stealing from the real economic system. The farmers, the manufacturers, all of it comes down to financialization of human product. It's really sad and is going to destroy. That's why I'm a huge advocate of the total destruction. You can't fix this thing by fining people. You can't even fix it by throwing them in jail. There is no fixing a system that has quadrillions of dollars in derivatives just to support it. It will all be destroyed. Keep an eye on what's going on with the repos, but especially what happens when the hedge funds go down. I talked about that in the Friday Road Trip. So there's this new book that came out. It's called The Finance Curse, How Global Finance is Making Us All Poorer. And let me just read a little bit of it. New book, veteran journalist Nicholas Saxton recounts the early years reporting in Angola, where he learned that the resource curse was by observing the horrible poverty of that oil-rich nation. All the money flowing from natural resources such as oil can make their populations even worse off if those riches had never been discovered, he writes. Now he argues that the same phenomenon afflicts modern economies like the United States and Britain because we have encouraged our financial sectors to flourish at the expense of the broader population, hence the financial curse. Saxton isn't the first one to make this argument. In 2016, the Financial Times' Rana Forhor published Makers and Takers, The Rise of Finance and the Fall of American Business. In it, she argues that what she calls financialization, in essence, the increased share of the economy that is caught up in finance, is devastating the bigger economy it is meant to serve. But especially in the uncertain, insecure climate, the thesis is important and worth repeating. Check this quote out. This is what drew me to this article. As even a bank chief executive like J.P. Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon noted, the economy certainly isn't working for everyone. That's at least correlated with the rise of finance. Back in the 1970s, financial corporations earned more than a tenth of corporate profits. Today, around a third of all corporate profits flow to finance, says Saxton. For sure, a functioning economy needs the services of a healthy financial sector, but we have become servants to the Lord of Finance. Why is that? Because they lie, they cheat, they steal, they invent new derivatives to suck more money out of the real economy. Another real interesting article. If you're worried about capitalism, you should be. Because capitalism is like, what's going to happen to capitalism when the banking derivative bomb goes off and the entire system implodes? It's getting thrown out like the baby with the bathwater. Capitalism will be blamed, not endorsed as a solution. We don't have capitalism today. We have criminal capitalism, crony capitalism, evil capitalism, corrupt capitalism. We don't have true capitalism. Anyway, here's the article, How the Democratic Party Learned to Wage Class Warfare. Absolutely. The Democrats have one choice, one hope in the future. If the whole system falls apart, they think they can jump in and say, hey, we have a solution. I don't think they can do that. Again, they get into Jamie Dimon. Bank bailout of 2008 was solid relief for both banks and homeowners whose mortgages, without their knowledge, propped up an opaque network of bets on their ability to repay them. Many assumed that regulation would follow to prevent such a crisis in the future. Upon his inauguration, however, Barack Obama appointed the reliably bank-friendly Tim Geithner as Treasury Secretary. Geithner had helped choose which banks would be propped up with public money, including Citibank, which was propped up bailed out 3 times. In the end, financial institutions like Citibank, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs walked away with, by some accounts, trillions of dollars. 2 years later, foreclosures hit record high. The bailout program's Inspector General, Neil Barsofsky, resigned in March 2011, declaring the program had left homeowners in far worse place than they would have been. 6 months later, Occupy Wall Street was born, first as a demonstration in a publicly owned private park in lower Manhattan, and then inspiring scores of other protests and encampments spreading nationwide. At an event promoting Jobs Bill, Obama interrupted by occupiers, Mr. President, over 4,000 peaceful protesters have been arrested, while banksters conclude the crowd shouted at them, but the rest, according to a slip of paper found and photographed, was, quote, to destroy the economy with impurity. Your silence sends a message. The police brutality is acceptable. Banks got bailed out. We got sold out. Now check out this quote from this idiot, Michael Bloomberg. We all know who he is. This will end all his attempts to become president. The police brutality they referred to erupted a few days prior when New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg unleashed what he calls his army of cops to remove the few hundred people who were still remaining at Zuccotti Park. The move only added insult to injury as Bloomberg's girlfriend sat on the board of a real estate development company that owned the park. Oh, is he a criminal? How did we know? I can tell you that pillow talk in our house was not about Occupy Wall Street or Brookfield Properties, the mayor claimed in his defense. But his loyalties were apparent. For example, when Occupy protested outside the home of head of JP Morgan, quote, to go and picket him, this is a quote from Bloomberg. I don't know what that achieves, Bloomberg said. Jamie Dimon is an honorable person working very hard paying taxes. It was the Occupy protesters, he said, who were trying to destroy the jobs of working people in the city, not those who bet their futures away. Jamie Dimon is an honorable person. This is what an honorable person looks like. 135 financial violations totaling $34.5 billion. Bloomberg, when that comes out, not that you have it shot, you're toast. Now here's something really interesting. JP Morgan Chase has trotted out one of its co-presidents. There's 2 co-presidents and Jamie's the CEO. It is rare that these guys are allowed to be in anything other than Jamie Dimon is always the one who speaks. But for some reason, right now, they trotted this guy out. JP Morgan's co-president talks about his 2020 outlook, the big tech threat, and socially conscious investing. JP Morgan Chase co-president Daniel Pinto, in an exclusive interview, shared his views on the year ahead, a potential turning point in trading, and the threat of big tech and how ESG investing is impacting the world. On new digital banking competitors like Chime and Monzo, Pinto said, they are acquiring clients, but the challenge is acquiring profitability. On the impact of ESG investing, it's possible that some companies will really struggle to finance themselves. Their cost of capital will go sky high, and they may not exist going forward. So why is this guy Daniel Pinto being dragged out instead of Jamie Dimon? Does it have to do with the RICO charges? Does it have to do with the potential for Jamie Dimon to be taken down finally after all these crimes he's committed? I think so. I don't know. I just don't know. It is an amazing thing to look at something like this. 135 criminal offenses totaling $34.5 billion. And the guy hasn't lost his job. And the board hasn't been replaced. And everybody involved hasn't been arrested. Again, go to the 7-Eleven across the street and steal $100, you're going to jail. You wear a suit and you steal $34.5 billion? What happens to you? You have a net worth of $1.7 billion and you live in a fancy New York high-rise penthouse. And you got houses all over the place, too. And you preach to us about morality. He does every time he grabs a microphone. This guy's a criminal. He belongs in jail. He's going to go to jail. The question is, what will taking down J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon due to this criminal and corrupt system. Because Jamie Dimon knows exactly what he had to do to stay in power, and that was to grow the derivative book to $55 trillion so that no regulator, no DOJ investigation would ever touch JP Morgan. Why? Because it would take down the entire system. He built this criminal operation to protect himself and his friends. $5 trillion a day goes out of Florida. He stops that flow. He even said it. He would wreak havoc on the United States. That was the only time I used the F word at the Road to Ruta was Jamie Dimon's comment that he was going to take down the United States if they did certain things. This guy belongs in jail for a long, long time. Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com. Hang in there, my friends. I'll talk to you later.